on.
Hey, English students, this is a little bit of a tutorial on how to annotate using our annotation guide for lines 78 through 109 and how to find allusions. So I'm going to do this on an actual text here so that you can actually get an idea about what to put in the book. We're going to change things up a little bit. We are going to add our notes still in the text, but I have decided instead, for the sake of better learning, to actually put your answers on good old-fashioned paper. This study guide or the guiding questions will still be what you have to turn in class. Don't worry about the first three questions. We did those on notes online, but what I want you to do is keep this paper. And one of the things you're going to do is you're going to answer, of course, the questions. I want you to actually circle some of these key vocabulary, and you will be able to use this as notes on the test. And this is also an opportunity for you to make some notes as to what these key terms mean. And we're going to actually work on allusions today for a couple of minutes and look at Bradford's use of allusions in the text. Couple of things to kind of clear up yesterday. I want you to check your answers and look at your notes from yesterday. The central idea of 47 through 56. And what you can do is kind of pause this and take a look at those answers for a moment if you want to, see how close you got to a model answer. But those are some model answers for those lines right there, okay? Purpose and central idea. But today we're going to talk about allusions. So we're going to look at lines 78 through 109, and you're going to have to do this later, is find allusions in the text, okay? So first of all, just a recap. Allusions are talking about outside literature. So sometimes an author will refer to outside literature, another story, basically, and allude to that in the story. And Bradford does this in lines 78 to 109. And this is what he says. He actually says they arrived in Good Harbor, and they're there in Cape Cod. And he says that, and no marvel if they were thus joyful, seeing wise Seneca was so affected with sailing a few miles on the coast of his own Italy. Who is Seneca? Well, basically, Seneca was a Roman philosopher and teacher who once wrote about how he hated traveling by ship because of seasickness. And so for his readers, they would have known that, and we don't know that. But that is actually who he's speaking about, or he's alluding to here. And no marvel if they were thus joyful, seeing why Seneca was so affected with sailing a few miles on the coast of his own Italy, as he affirmed that he had rather remain 20 years on his way by land than pass by sea to any place in a short time, so tedious and dreadful was the same unto him. So basically their experience was like Seneca's. And then he goes on to say, but here I cannot but stay and make a pause and stand half amazed at this poor people's present condition. And so I think will the reader too, when he well considers the same. Being thus past the vast ocean and sea of troubles before in their preparation, as may be remembered by that which went before, they had now no friends to welcome them, nor inns to entertain and refresh their weather-beaten bodies. So he's thinking about, in the past, he writes about these travelers and what they had undergone, and that they had no friends. No one was there to welcome them, right? Their weather-beaten bodies. No houses or much less towns to repair to seek for succor. And that, of course, over here, help and comfort. No way to get help and comfort. It is recorded in Scripture, I think he's going to talk about the Bible, as a mercy to the apostle and his shipwrecked company that the barbarians showed them no small kindness in refreshing them, but these savage barbarians, when they met with them, as far as will appear, were readier to fill their sides full of arrows than otherwise. So he records about the apostle. This is actually talking about the apostle Paul. And he's actually saying that there were barbarians in his adventure, or in his voyage, and basically they were going to fill him full of arrows. And for the season, it was winter, and they that know the winters. And he goes back to his story about what had happened to the pilgrims. So now he leaves the Apostle Paul. And they had known the winters of that country, know them to be sharp and violent and subject to cruel and fierce storms, dangerous to travel to known places, much more to search an unknown coast. Besides, what could they see but a hideous and desolate wilderness full of wild beasts and wild men, and what multitudes there might be of them, they knew not. You might want to make a note here in your text electronically. It must have been wild. They didn't know who was there. They must have been scared to death. And who knows what multitudes might be there they knew not of. This almost compares it between the two stories, almost as if theirs is worse than the Apostle Paul's. And then he goes on and says, neither could they, as it were, go up to the top of Pisgah to view from this wilderness a more goodly country to feed their hopes. Pisgah is actually referring to an actual mountain that they would have been able to see, like the Promised Land. Moses in the Old Testament in the Bible would have gone up here to see the Promised Land. But they couldn't even go to the top of a mountain and see the wilderness of the goodly country to feed their hopes. They had no mountain to go to. They actually went to the harbor and froze to death that first winter. So basically, what he's saying is this. The central idea that this emphasizes, these illusions. Seneca, he uses Seneca, the apostle, and his shipwreck company, and Pisgah. All these illusions emphasize the extreme difficulty the pilgrims had, since their circumstances are more challenging than the original stories. I hope this helps a little bit with this idea of illusions. Think about comparing that. Think about the illusions that might be there. If you can't figure out what those illusions are, you can always research on your computer and figure out what this might be comparing to. These are some of our harder questions. And the next ones are going to be a little bit easier. You're going to work about the map. There will be a little bit of something was alluded to there, an illusion in 10, and then theme on 11. Keep working through these, and we'll go through them in class together.